A former data manager for the Florida Department of Health is suing the Florida Department of Law Enforcement after agents executed a search warrant on her home earlier this month. Rebekah Jones helped create the state's coronavirus dashboard. Back in May, she was fired from her job. Florida officials say it was for insubordination, but Jones claims that she was fired for not manipulating the state's COVID data. On December 7th, law enforcement officers served a search warrant on Jones's home. It came after state health department employees received a message urging them to, quote, speak out before more people died from the virus. Investigators say that message originated from Jones's home. Jones says that she was the subject of retaliation. And Rebekah joins us now from Tallahassee, Florida. Rebekah, before we get to your lawsuit, can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you did for the Florida Department of Health, which led to your firing?
Yes, so I created the state's COVID-19 dashboard and our online data and surveillance systems. I had been asking DOH to allow the public to have some kind of information in an easily consumable format since January. And I was told for weeks that we didn't need it, and then for weeks after that it would cause a panic, and then finally I built it and ran it for months. And then when it came to reopening the state, and I was asked to manually delete cases and change numbers so that things look better than they were, I said no. And then I was fired.
Well, let's go ahead and fast forward to December 7th when police officers executed a search warrant on your home. Walk us through what you say happened in that instance.
Yeah, I don't think executing a search warrant is an appropriate phrasing, although I realize it's probably typically what you would say for something like this, but it really was a raid. They came in with guns drawn. They pointed guns at my children and my husband, who were upstairs. They took equipment that had no possible way of transmitting a message, including thumb drives and external hard drives that they knew somewhere in my house had proof of what was going on inside the state. And we filed suit to make it very clear that this kind of behavior is not going to be accepted in the United States, that police are not allowed to come to your home with guns based on no evidence whatsoever, because there was none provided that indicated that I had sent this message. And it was a message sent to an internal system that the username and password was public and listed on the state's website in 7 different instructional manuals. So literally anybody in the whole wide world could have got onto the site and told people to speak out. I've been doing that publicly for the last 7 months, running my own company and then the COVID monitor, tracking cases in schools. And so there's no reason for me to do that privately.
I want to read for our viewers a little bit from that message, which you claim did not originate from you. The investigation, we are told from officials, started after a message was sent to health department employees that read, quote, "It's time to speak up before another 17,000 people are dead. You know this is wrong. You don't have to be a part of this. Be a hero. Speak out before it's too late." Investigators say that that message was traced back to your computer. Do you know anything about the message or why it might appear to have been sent from your computer? And then based off of also what you're telling me, I wonder if you disagree in any way with that sentiment. I understand that you said you didn't send it, but do you wish that you had? Do you agree with what was written?
I've always encouraged people to speak out if they see any kind of behavior going on at the state that involves manipulating data or misleading the public in any manner under any governor or political party. It's incredibly important during a pandemic that we have the right information, that we have it when we need it, and that it's delivered to us transparently. That is my message the whole year. And no, actually, I hate to correct you, but the investigators did not actually tie that message to any devices in my house. They claimed that my former employer, who I have filed a whistleblower complaint against, provided them an IP address that they said the message was sent from. They were there to get my equipment to see if there was a message sent, and it's been several weeks now, and they're not going to find any evidence of that on any of those devices because that's not what happened.
Well, certainly, Rebekah, feel free to correct anything that sounds wrong. Obviously, we're interested in hearing exactly your side of the story and what you were told. I'm wondering along those same lines, when those officers were in your home, as you say, conducting their raid, or as they say, executing a search warrant, did they tell you why they were there? Did they give you any explanation? Because part of the thing that I'm trying to unravel is a comment sent to people in an email doesn't seem like the sort of thing that in this country, with our protections of free speech, should warrant a warrant.
Yeah, so they didn't actually, they claimed that they were outside my house for about 20 minutes, which is not true. Their own footage shows that they were not out there that long. A few minutes after they called me, and then I called my lawyer, I was heading down the stairs, which is the video that I captured. And 39 seconds after they announced they had a warrant for the very first time, the door was open. They claimed they needed to come in with their guns like that because of the long wait that they were put through. But the fact that almost a dozen officers were sent to my house to come in and threaten and intimidate us and basically hold us hostage for 2.5 hours was because a message that somebody sent to other employees, not telling them to do anything wrong. Nothing was stolen or corrupted or taken, but just to say, speak out if you know something is wrong, to say something. And while I agree with that sentiment, I don't need that. I've been fortunate enough to have a platform where I can reach people and tell them to speak out and to come to me if they have any information. And that's been working quite successfully. And that's really why DeSantis sent his personal police force to my house, was to intimidate witnesses and get my phone, which he now has, and try to crack it to see who I've been talking to at the state.
So, Rebekah, you have a lawsuit that you filed.
What the warrant was for until they were leaving, which seems kind of counter to what we expect a search warrant to be. You ask for a copy of it, you get to see it, you get to know what they're allowed to take and what they're not. But we weren't given the warrant until they were walking out the door to leave. And there's nothing we could have said.
And you're saying you asked them for the warrant and they refused to give it to you until the end, Rebekah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're currently filing lawsuit against members of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Do you also have a lawsuit because this all stems, you say, from being fired for not manipulating public information about the pandemic that has killed already so many Americans? Is there a separate lawsuit, or you're exclusively focused on the Department of Law Enforcement?
We filed the whistleblower complaint over the summer. That's been in investigation now since July, so 5 months, more than 5 months now. We were told that the investigation was complete several weeks ago, but we have still not been given the results of that investigation. So this was something that has been ongoing for a while. DeSantis had a lot of very negative press in the week before the raid on my house. I published peer-reviewed lit on how unsafe schools were in Florida during the reopening period, which went against his whole reopen the schools, laissez-faire attitude, which got 35,000 student and staff sick in this state. And so he was really dealing with a lot of blows. So they went to the most recent DeSantis appointee judge, who had been sworn in for less than a month. And this was the first warrant he ever signed. And then came in with nearly a dozen officers, guns drawn, to take pretty much every electronic device that I had.
The commissioner of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement told CBS that he believes, quote, the facts will come out in court, and that he was proud of the professionalism shown by his agents. I'm wondering what your response is to that, and what are you arguing in your lawsuit against law enforcement? What sort of damages are you seeking?
I'm mostly seeking a return of all of my stuff. That equipment was not cheap. I fundraised over the entire summer to buy one of those computers. And if he thinks that his behavior was so reserved, or the officers were, they should come explain that to my 11-year-old son, who hasn't been able to sleep by himself since that happened. Pointing guns at children who are unarmed in a civilian house for a nonviolent warrant just to pick up computer equipment is nothing but intimidation and threats. And if that is the professional standard, then we need to have a serious discussion about what police consider the professional standard, and we need to change that, because children are exposed to violence by the police every single day in this country, and that should not be an acceptable, much less praised behavior.
Rebekah, I understand that you want your equipment back, but what you're alleging are very serious crimes, really, and very serious allegations against the governor, against law enforcement, against the Department of Health. Is that all you're asking for? Is that what would satisfy you, just to have your equipment restored?
The motion that we applied for today was for immediate restoration of all of my devices, and not allowing them to use anything that they got off of them to intimidate people who are working at state agencies who are still there and have been speaking to me to be accessed by the police. Because that's a big part of what this was about, was DeSantis trying to figure out who I've been talking to that keeps giving me all this information that keeps making me a pain for him to have to deal with. And we want to protect those sources. We want to protect those people who are at the state level. And I think that's a very serious crime, is to go after a whistleblower who you've publicly defamed in the past, and B, someone who's exercising their First Amendment right to speech through my own websites, and C, to really be trying to root out disloyalty during a pandemic, which is right now in Florida worse than it's ever been at any point. And that is the kind of mismanagement that really has defined DeSantis, is getting rid of the experts who disagree with you, going through and plowing through your agenda no matter what the science says, and to hell with anybody who has to say otherwise. And it's really indicative of this larger trend that we have, where scientists are set aside and we just say, we're going to try this and hope it works, and if it doesn't, whoopsie. But there are lives at stake. More than 21,000 people have died in this state as of today. 21,000. That did not have to happen.
Rebekah Jones, it is really a wild case, and we so appreciate you coming on. We hope that we'll be able to continue talking with you as your case continues. Rebekah Jones, thank you.
Thank you.